Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something, well, kind of trippy this time.
I think trippy is the right word for this one.
We're tackling illusion today, but we're going way beyond smoke and mirrors, beyond those classic magic tricks.
Right, it's about how we perceive reality itself. What we think is real, what's not, and how much of that is shaped by, well, basically our own minds.
And to unpack all of that, we're going deep on this one text that's making some pretty bold statements. Like straight out the gate, it says illusion is reality.
Yeah, I remember that. It definitely grabs your attention, doesn't it?
It definitely does. But then it kind of breaks it down, explaining that we experience reality through these dimensional depths. And it's like, well, that almost makes sense.
It's like, think of looking at a giant sculpture, right?
Yeah.
Like something really abstract. From one side, it's just a mess, right? Doesn't make any sense.
But you move a little, get a different angle, different perspective, and suddenly you're like, oh, there's a shape there.
And the sculpture hasn't changed. Just your view of it. You're seeing it from a different dimensional depth.
So then how does that work with like two people looking at the same thing but seeing totally different things? Is one of them wrong?
Not necessarily, and that's a key point here. It's not about one perspective being right and another being wrong. It's about recognizing that everyone's viewpoint has limitations. We're all seeing the sculpture, just from our own angle.
Okay, so that brings us to this other part of the text that really got me thinking. It talks about two types of bias, dimensional bias and cognitive bias, and how both of them, well, they mess with how we experience the world.
Yeah, they're like two different ways our perception can get, I don't know, maybe a little distorted.
So dimensional bias, this is like you're missing a whole piece of the puzzle. The text uses this analogy, trying to make sense of quantum physics using only the laws of classical physics. You're never going to get the full picture that way because you're working with the wrong tools.
You're stuck in one dimension of understanding, basically.
Exactly. Then there's cognitive bias. This one's more about misinterpreting what we see, but we're still in the same dimension, right? The example the text uses is a mirage in the desert.
Ah, yeah, you see what looks like an oasis, shimmering water, but it's just the light playing tricks.
So the point is, we all have these biases, right? We can't escape them. They're part of being human.
The text isn't saying we're being fooled by reality on purpose. It's saying that our perception is always just a glimpse of something much bigger and more complex. We're all just trying to make sense of it from our own limited perspective.
That actually makes a lot of sense. So, okay, then it gets even weirder. The text connects stronger illusions to, get this, deeper realities.
Yeah, the idea is that the more powerful the illusion, the more it reveals about the underlying mechanisms of, well, in this case, our perception.
So like those optical illusions, right? Those things that make your brain hurt.
Exactly. Like the spinning dancer illusion. The more you try to figure out which way she's spinning, the more you learn about how your brain processes depth and motion.
So the illusion itself can be a tool almost to understand something deeper, something more fundamental about how our brains work, about the nature of reality itself.
By challenging our assumptions and forcing us to confront those limitations in our perception, illusions can actually guide us towards these, like you said, these deeper truths.
So then the text takes this even further and it connects illusions to, wait for it, dreams. And I gotta say, that one threw me for a loop.
Dreams are fascinating, right?
Fabulous.
Because they often feel illogical, like they're playing by a completely different set of rules.
And that's exactly what the text is getting at. What if those different rules are actually the rules of a different dimensional structure?
Imagine you're in a dream where gravity works in reverse. It would feel totally illogical at first because you're still trying to apply the rules of the waking world. But what if you could learn the rules of that dream dimension? Like, what if you could understand how things work in that reality?
So you're saying we could actually learn to navigate those different realities, maybe even control them, like lucid dreaming, right? Where you're aware that you're in a dream and can kind of direct it.
Exactly. It's like becoming fluent in the language of a different dimension. And that opens up all sorts of possibilities, doesn't it?
So where does that leave us? What are we supposed to do with all of this?
The source leaves us with a powerful message. It doesn't matter if it's an illusion, a dream, or even our own imagination. If it has an impact on us, it's worth examining.
So we need to look at our own biases, our own limited perceptions with that same curiosity we bring to a magic trick, right?
Absolutely. Because who knows what we might uncover about ourselves and about the world around us if we're brave enough to question what we think we know. What if reality, in its full multidimensional glory, is far stranger and more wondrous than we ever imagined?
Now that is a thought to dive into. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.